Welcome to the Crazy J Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your main man, aka Crazy Croc, aka I'm Just Podcast. Today, folks, we're going to concentrate on politics and the nations of the world, and Europe, and in America. We got to first start with the President Trump new policy with the concept of policy with Ukraine. He has shifted his tone in saying that Ukraine is and should be obtaining their own land and to regain the land that they lost to the Russians. Now, long story short, we all know that President Trump and Putin had a somewhat better relationship in the first term of the president, and in the second term of the president of the United States, his relationships with Putin has not gained him anything. There's a strong uh, conviction, and I think that people need to understand that there is something that the Kremlin, Putin, the Russian president, understands that Donald Trump does not hold an advantage at this point in his time as a president. There's nothing that Donald Trump can say that will shift Putin's to leave Ukrainian people alone, um, and that's something that's been very clear. Uh, Even in the past, the Europeans, the European Union, who've met with the president and with Zelensky of Ukraine, there's been a shift in the fact that the European countries are holding their cards with Ukraine and not with Russia. And Donald Trump has kind of figured out that he's lost the hand, or he's lost I would say, the battle at this point and this policy. So he shifted his policy to saying that Ukraine should obtain the land that they lost and to obtain their own right to exist. Um, However, I would say that sooner or later this war will keep escalating to a point where I don't think that these two countries, along with Europe, will uh, have anything in control, especially when we talk about immigration and migration of people coming into Europe. Speaking of that, Donald Trump did say something about in the terms of that he believes that countries should be uh, in somewhat um, uh, nationalistic stance for their countries. He believes that these countries should have a love for their nation and the closure of the borders. Uh, and what that really means is that uh, Donald Trump in America has already tried to close the borders completely. He sent ICE into certain uh, neighborhoods and towns and cities like LA to take on so-called illegal immigrants and people with criminal records. Again, that's a policy that a lot of Americans, a lot of people have a question mark about it, because um, the problem with that is that it's so he said, she said, this guy is this and this guy is that. So when ICE comes in and takes people and deports them, um, there is a thin line of the paperwork and the policies that people don't get along with me. It's very difficult to decide if the president is doing the right thing or the wrong thing for this. Um, However, uh, speaking of Europe and their issues out there, the Europeans are having a lot of problems with migration and with higher crime rates as we speak, as right now. A lot of Europeans, a lot like Germany and Sweden, have been open-minded to allow migrations and allow people come into their country. However, uh, both these countries are in a weird place where they don't really want any more people in there, and they don't want them to be causing problems. And what's happening now is that um, the people, let's go to Sweden, the people of Sweden, uh, they have a very proud nationalist policy of, people of their kind, people of their cultural, people that look like them, act like them. Uh, and I think that's just something that's spoken to about a lot of the European countries. They've political shift is from the anti-immigration of Sweden of Democrats. So I think that a lot of the Swedish people are concerned with the jobs and and like say homelessness or even crime rates going up. And I don't know if these policies is legit, but when they do allow people to come into their country, they kind of have a social segregation where they would rather have people of other cultures to stay in one place, and their people stay within their own place. And that's kind of what's kind of going on with in Sweden. In Germany, uh, they were more open minded to allow people in their country. It goes from the past after uh, the World War II episode, where they allow people to come into the country to help them build Germany back up. Germany is concerned about their cost of housing, social atmosphere, the welfare, and the healthcare system within helping those uh, people of immigration. Uh, there's been data out there from the OECD and the IMF saying that in the long term that this is going to be a better stance for Germany based on the taxes that they're going to get back from it and filling labor shortage, which doesn't really make sense to me because what is labor shortage? Is it the fact that you won't hire your own people to a base rate of a income rate that is affordable for them to live, or are you basically hiring a bunch of people outside the country so that your pay rate is a lot lower and the insurance would be a lot lower and it'd be economically better for business owners of Germany? That's something that you have to kind of fill in the blanks if you're German or you're people from Europe. Uh, Going on to countries like Hungary and Greece and Italy, starting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He is a part of the Fidesz party. He has a new policy that he thinks that's going to work, the anti-immigration. It's a defense of Christian Europe and is against Muslim invasion. That means that basically he doesn't want no Islamic State or Islamic uh, personalities or characteristics or anything within their country. Uh, However, uh, in Hungary, there was less likely a migration in Central and Eastern Europe. So they have a tendency to not really spread their wings or love to other sides of the world. Italy and Greece are struggling with the idea of having immigration because the migration is so high in there, but they have the availability of work is very low. So they're also in the state of mind where they are struggling with the idea of having too many uh, immigrants in that country that they can't obtain and afford to keep housing and everything else that needs to apply to those countries. And remember, Greece is not as rich and wealthy as they once was back in the glory years of Rome and Greek uh, high times of Alexander the Great. So obviously, I don't know why I had put that in there, but let's be honest. Uh, going back to the history of why the Muslim religion has been stopped, going back to 732 AD, the Frankish people protected their land from the migration of Islamic State that was being spread around the world at the time, and Spain also regained their land based on their Christian rules and Christian policies over the Islamic religion. So it seems as though history is repeating itself. That uh, people don't. It's not that people. I don't know if people don't like Muslims or the Islamic State. They just don't want people who are not like them, act like them, talk like them in their country. They don't want people taking their land, and basically, that's what I really think that this is really about. It's about uh, the European nations are not wanting people of other race or other cultures and other religious beliefs to take their land. Uh, and it goes for anywhere in North America and South America. Uh, we just don't want people from other countries to try to take our land without um, a sufficient reason of being in that land, but not trying to take over the country. And I think maybe that's one of those things that the European countries are worried about, that the Islamic State will take over the country and then have an Islamic rule over those countries. And that's something that's always been an issue with Europe. Europe is always changing and always have uh, a thing about uh, wars and religious policies, a religious state of mind. Uh, Even going from the Middle East to the Europeans, they've always did business with each other, but doesn't mean they always liked each other. But they did business at one point, along with the Chinese and China. But it kind of makes this clear that in some form or shape, nothing really changes. What changes is maybe the time. What changes is the year. What changes is life changes a lot of stuff. But in reality, I've said this for 15 years, ever since I've done more of a open-minded to talk about politics, is that we take care of our kind. And what that really means is that we take care of people that look like us, act like us, talk like us. Um, and it can go from a little bitty thing about sports teams and sports and music and genres and fashion, and it can go all the way up to our our country, our nation, and our uh, social belief and our religious belief. And this is something that's never going to change. So, in some ways, I will say that segregation works and it doesn't work. Segregation doesn't work when it becomes a discriminative uh, point of view, like the Jim Crow laws of the 1920s and the 40s and the 50s, uh, keeping African Americans from succeeding in life and progressing them to be able to own their own things, they own their own land, and to have the freedom of speech to vote. However, segregation does work in places where, if people in America have a white community who are Christians, a black community who are Christians, and they have their officials and their uh, lawyers and politicians and their uh, uh, civil services people out there uh, um, protecting themselves or protecting their zip code. So when you have people, let's say from an African community, who are, a lot of them are African American cops, firefighters, lawyers, doctors, services in their district, when the majority of the people in that land, that zip code, are African Americans, then a lot of times the lawyers and doctors should be the same, so they obtain a law. It just happens to work better that way. And the same thing goes with places like Holland and Hudsonville, where the majority of the people are white and they're Christian, and their policies obtain the same way that they obtain this civil law. They have civil services people who are who look the same, act the same, talk the same, and it seems to work a lot better. Uh, I'm not really sure about Dearborn, Michigan. I know Dearborn, Michigan is a Muslim community. I would almost think that they have Muslim doctors, not just doctors, but not just on nurses or healthcare, but people who are in office that uh, obtain to the same Constitution of America. And that's kind of the thing that I think a lot of people need to understand, uh, that we don't want people trying to change our religious point of views and then have to be forced to be Muslims or Christians or Jews or any other spiritual belief that we don't believe in. I think if you are for example, if I am a man with brown hair, brown eyes, I'm gonna feel more comfortable with people around my uh, uh, of physical nature. And if I am a Catholic or Christian, I'm going to hang out with more Catholic and Christian type people. And I'm not to say I'm not going to talk to people who are Muslims or Jewish and all that, but there's an understanding that these people, the people who are Jewish, the people who are Muslims, are going to speak in their own terms and their own beliefs in their own time with their own people. But then they also understand that I'm going to talk about Christian and Catholic uh, uh, faith among my own people, and I'm not going to I'm not going to force them to change their spiritual beliefs. That's one thing that's great about America, that we can all kind of coexist, even though if we don't agree with each other. Uh, there you go, folks. I'm going to end it right there. I hope this kind of works out so that you guys understand how this really works. Uh, Again, I'm not going to tell you that I know everything about all these policies and all these what's going on in the world, because I'm not part of that political um, uh, news. I'm never around politicians. I'm never around people that can make a lot more sense of things. Sometimes you make too much sense of something, it can get more confusing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this episode, follow me on Spotify, podcasts, wherever you download your podcasts. It's about sports, politics, and life. Peace, love. You can also follow me on YouTube and the Pan Show. All right, I'm out of here.